Teammates said McKissic was walking around. That's a weird accent that I don't actually have. Here we go, baby. Back for another edition of Must Start Players for Week 13, and it's time to get dialed in. I'm Dave Loughran with Awesemo.com, and we got the playoffs right around the corner. That means that in a season where, I'm serious, I have not seen as many injuries to key players as we have in 2021 in a long time of playing fantasy football. Maybe it's happened before, but I honestly can't remember it. From Christian McCaffrey to the IR again, to Derrick Henry, who never gets hurt, to Alvin Kamara constantly hurt, Dalvin Cook done again. The list goes on, and we're not even scratching the surface. That means we got to find these good plays, the diamonds in the rough, not just the top options, and that's exactly what we're here for. So if you're looking for that type of content, stick with me. One quick video, we'll break it all down right here. And before we do, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. It only takes 1 second. And subscribe to the channel as well. Leave a comment too. I read them all. I try to respond to all of them. If you have questions, if you're on the fence, I'll get at you for sure. Let's dive into it. Jamaal Williams is a stellar spot start for Sunday's home tilt with the Vikings. Not only is DeAndre Swift doubtful to play after suffering a shoulder injury early in Thursday's loss to Chicago, but Williams will get a matchup with a Minnesota team that's ceding a league worst 4.8 yards per attempt to opposing rushers and the 10th most fantasy points per game allowed to the running back position. Williams was already averaging 13 touches per game on the season, and his workload should expand significantly with Swift expected to sit. Believe it or not, Detroit has the league's 5th highest game script adjusted run play percentage, so expect them to lean on the run if things don't get out of control. I don't think they will, and to be fair, the Lions have played 3 straight games decided by 3 or fewer points. But the biggest advantage for Williams comes in the passing game, where Swift has dominated work all year to the point where he's second on the team in targets behind only TJ Hockenson. Expect to see Williams featured a lot more as a pass catcher, as we know he's perfectly capable going back to his days in Green Bay. The good part about a non-committee approach is that even if they do fall behind early, the lead back will still be on the field. We actually have Williams projected as a top 5 running back for this week, so keep that in mind when the tough decisions come into play. Devonta Smith was pissed last week when Jalen Hurts decided to target Jalen Reagor on 2 should have been game-winning touchdowns, both of which he dropped in embarrassing fashion. Exit Nelson Agholor, enter Jalen Reagor. But hey, it's cool. It's not like there was a good receiver the Eagles could have drafted ahead of him last year. Definitely not someone who broke the all-time rookie receiving yards record. Nope, that guy doesn't exist. Whatever. Here's the point. I'm not a big narrative guy, but this is going to be a squeaky wheel game for Smith, who is the clear top playmaker of all Eagles pass catchers and went essentially unused last game so Nick Sirianni could force feed Reagor with a team-leading 7 targets in a dreadful loss to the Giants. There's no way Reagor doesn't see his playing time disappear after last week. He was already scarcely used before Sunday's embarrassment. Quez Watkins should get a few looks, and Goddard will probably reemerge as the number 2 pass catcher, but Smith should be able to pick apart this Jets secondary that closely resembles a Division II unit. New York's allowing a horrible 8.2 yards per attempt to opposing passers and 49 passing plays of 20-plus yards this year. This is the highest implied total the Eagles have had all season. They're 7-point favorites on the road, and Smith comes into this game with the clear highest target share at 24%. Listen, this Eagles team is super frustrating for fantasy purposes, but they keep getting great matchups, and with Smith, we have to roll the dice. I actually featured Antonio Gibson in last week's video, and man, what could have been? He was still more than solid, but J.D. McKissic had to go and score a rushing and receiving touchdown to cap Gibson's upside. 24 fantasy points is pretty nice, though, considering he didn't score. The biggest thing for me, though, when it comes to Gibson is volume. We talked about it last video, but the dude came into week 12 having racked up 43 rushing attempts over his last 2 games. Then on Monday Night Football, carried the ball a season-high 29 times. Gibson also caught all 7 of his targets and became far more involved in the passing game after McKissic was carted off the field with a neck injury. Teammates said McKissic was walking around in the locker room after the game, but he'll have a short turnaround for week 13, and it's hard to believe he's going to be active. Even if he is, Gibson is getting so much work on the ground and almost all of the red zone carries that we need to keep running him out there with confidence regardless. The Raiders' biggest defensive weakness is on the ground, so unless this game somehow gets out of control quickly, and I don't see any reason why it would, we should expect more run-heavy offense from Washington. You got to keep playing Gibson. Hunter Renfrow is one of the only pass catchers left in Vegas at this point. Darren Waller's hurt again. Bryan Edwards is basically just running wind sprints, and Henry Ruggs, well, yeah. Anyway, since week 2, Renfrow is tied with Waller for the team lead in target share at 23%. And I'm excluding week 1 because Waller had an anomalous game that hasn't come close to being replicated since that. But yeah, Renfrow might not be getting peppered with double-digit targets each week, but he has 8+ looks in 7 of 11 games and is averaging just shy of 8 on the year. With Waller out, the Raiders will look to lean heavily on the ground for sure, but Renfrow should once again be a staple of this offense. In the 2 games where Waller was either out or injured early, Renfrow produced 15 receptions and 192 yards on 17 targets. And despite failing to reach the end zone in both of those games, he's second on the Raiders in red zone targets this season with 12, behind only Darren Waller. This home matchup against Washington has plenty of shootout potential, especially given that Washington has been a pass funnel defense, allowing the 4th fewest rushing yards and 3rd most passing yards per game. Expect Renfrow to keep rolling on Sunday. If you're in pure desperation mode in a deep league, or like me in so many spots, your entire team is injured, I've got a couple desperation plays for you. You're not going to feel good about them, but you could do worse. DeSean Jackson went from being uninvolved entirely to getting 4 targets last week, of which one of them came on a long touchdown. He has big play upside. He could go deep twice for 2 big scores, and that's more than you could say about a lot of guys that you're still going to find on the waiver wire. Meanwhile, Boston Scott had 15 carries last week. And while some of that might just be that Nick Sirianni hates Miles Sanders, who averaged 7.1 yards per game, don't get me started, it could also be that Miles Sanders was banged up again, hurting that foot. I don't expect Jordan Howard to play this week, given that they have a week 14 bye and he's dealing with a knee injury. So it's entirely possible that Boston Scott has the backfield to himself, with maybe Kenny Gainwell spelling him. Even if Sanders plays and you're desperate, Boston Scott could once again get 15 to 17 touches in this backfield against the Jets team that can't stop anybody. And lastly, Javonte Williams. Yes, it's frustrating. Melvin Gordon is still getting plenty of work in the backfield, but Williams has gone back-to-back games playing season-high snaps, is getting plenty of work on the ground, and is featured a bit as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So while it's a tough spot against Kansas City, whose defense is playing better and offense is starting to hum, Javonte Williams might be one of those guys that you have to plug in there and hope he gets 16, 17 touches and falls into the end zone like he did last week. I would hope that by now you guys all know to play Alexander Mattison when Dalvin Cook is out. But in the event that you were still on the fence, let me clear it up for you. Mattison has made 4 career starts with Dalvin Cook sidelined. There's no way Cook plays this week, by the way. And in those games, he's averaging over 21 rushing attempts, 5 targets, 125 yards per scrimmage, and 21 fantasy points per game. He's had one awful start, which shockingly came against the Falcons last year. But aside from that, Mattison has been a workhorse back with insane volume. He has 25 plus carries in both starts this season while amassing 15 targets and 90 receiving yards to boot. And one of those games came against this same winless Lions team that he'll face on Sunday. Detroit, I think they'll win this week for what it's worth, is allowing more fantasy points to opposing running backs than every team not named the Jets and Seahawks, while only a trio of teams are allowing more rushing yards per game on the year. Moreover, the Lions have surrendered 7 receiving touchdowns to opposing backs, one of which went to Mattison earlier in the season. He's a virtual lock to get heavy volume and an efficient workload at that, and we have him projected as the number 2 running back behind only Jonathan Taylor in week 13. You know what to do. If you love fantasy football and you haven't played daily fantasy football yet, well, I got an amazing offer for you. And my only hesitation in telling you this is that you're just going to stop watching my videos here on this channel. But that's cool. You can head over to our main channel, the DFS one, and well, we'll be square. But check this out. If you sign up for Yahoo Fantasy as a new user, got to be a new user, using the link below in the description and deposit just $10 or more if you'd like, but only has to be $10. You will get 1 full free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's everything on the site. And it's not just football, baseball, basketball, hockey, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, even esports. If they have contests out there, we've got content for it. And all of the tools you need to win at Yahoo as well. Ownership projections, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, the lineup builder, and so much more, all of which are built by the #1 ranked DFS player out there, Awesemo himself, won millions of dollars using these very tools I'm talking about right now. So check it out. Go to Yahoo, sign up using the link in the description, Deposit $10 or more. They will send their information over to us, and we will email you with the steps to get your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum and $90 value. You got to check DFS out. You're going to love it. And, well, you can use all of the tools on the site and, of course, follow along every single day of the week with our DFS content on the Awesemo YouTube channel as well. Check it out. Link in the description below. We'll see you over there. I wanted to use Rob Gronkowski here, but we featured him last week, so let's mix it up. But just so you know, Gronkowski is a legitimate top 3 tight end right now, maybe top 2. So continue to load him into your starting lineups every single week. Gerald Everett has been the only player on the Seahawks offense to actually produce anything of value since Russell Wilson returned. And man, Russell Wilson has been bad. I really don't see how he isn't still dealing with some lingering issues with that finger injury that landed him on the IR, and it's affecting the entire offense. But Everett has seemingly benefited from this. He leads the team in targets with 21 over the last 3 weeks and has 16 receptions, which are leading the team. And the next closest pass catcher has 7 less than he does. He's not exactly running DK Metcalf type routes, but Everett is running routes on 77% of dropbacks and has been on the field for over 80% of snaps. And since Wilson has really struggled throwing anything downfield, Everett's actually been the primary beneficiary of his troubles. And yeah, the 49ers have done a great job of limiting tight ends, but they haven't faced a murderer's row of players at the position. The only legitimately good tight end they've faced all season was TJ Hawkinson, and he went for 26 fantasy points in week 1. Now, I'm not saying Everett is particularly good either, but he's a perfectly reasonable option in week 13 if you need someone at tight end. Get this, since week 8, Brandon Aiyuk leads the 49ers with a 25% target share. And while he hasn't lit the world on fire, he's the wide receiver 15 over that span. He'll get at least 1 week without Deebo Samuel in the lineup too, which makes him the clear de facto number 1 receiver on Sunday against the Seahawks. I definitely expect Eli Mitchell to continue getting a ton of work, and you should really love this guy right now, given his heavy uptick in pass catching opportunities and 20+ carries per game. But Aiyuk stands to benefit in a big way as well. Aiyuk's been running routes on a whopping 95% of dropbacks and faces a Seattle secondary that's coughing up the second most passing yards per game in 2021. And despite Jimmy Garoppolo's low passing volume, much of which is by design and plenty of which is the result of many favorable game scripts, he's been efficient enough to prop up Aiyuk in an above-average matchup. Because he leads the league by a mile in yards per attempt over the last 5 weeks at 9.2. Granted, Deebo is to thank for plenty of that, but Garoppolo and Aiyuk should still be able to produce solid numbers. And while the Niners were a mess at every position last year, including quarterback, Aiyuk's biggest games came with Samuel off the field. Be sure to check out everything we've got going on over at Awesemo.com and OddsShopper.com. DFS, sports betting, fantasy football, all of which are created by the number 1 ranked DFS player in the world, Awesemo himself. I'm Dave Loughran. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace. Give you that camera thing.